I'm a firefighter. I saved a girl who wanted to jump off a building. Her name is Leela. She was arranged to receive psychological counseling, and the psychologist in charge of her just happens to be my husband, Jacob. After several interactions, Jacob even disregarded professional ethics, insisting on bringing her home. Late at night, Leela turned on the gas, trying to end her life again. Jacob and I woke up at the same time. He immediately rushed into Leela's room. He picked her up and quickly escaped the scene. I inhaled too much carbon monoxide. My whole body felt weak. I couldn't move at all. Jacob soon came back. A glimmer of hope flashed in my eyes, but I saw him carrying Leela's dog. He went out again and locked the door behind him. I gritted my teeth. I forced myself to crawl to the windowsill. With my last bit of strength, I called for emergency help. After waking up, I'm holding the miscarriage report. I called the fire chief. Captain, I want to go back to the team to participate in the wildfire rescue. The call hasn't been disconnected yet. Jacob's call came in. After I answered, Jacob's anxious voice immediately echoed in the hospital room. Emma, where exactly are you right now? Leela has been suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning for 3 days. You haven't come to take care of her at all. You know I'm too busy with work to get away. I'm at the hospital. I interrupted him. Hurry up. Room 304. Jacob didn't wait for my response. He hung up the phone directly, until my palm started to hurt. I realized I had been clenching my fist tightly. I was unconscious for 3 days due to carbon monoxide poisoning, but Jacob didn't notice at all. He thought I was deliberately avoiding him out of jealousy. He's very busy with work. I had my right leg broken by a falling load-bearing column during a rescue mission earlier. I lay in the hospital for 3 months. He never came to see me even once. Now Leela is suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning. He stayed by her side for 3 whole days. He didn't leave her side for a moment. I gently touch my belly. My heart feels empty. There used to be a little life here, but I didn't even know of its existence. It had already left. Could it be because it felt that Mom didn't give you enough love? I'm sorry. This matter is beyond even Mom's power. I gather my emotions. I put on a coat to cover my hospital gown. I'm planning to go see Leela. The nurse on duty comes in. She hurriedly stops me. You just woke up and just went through a miscarriage. Why aren't you lying down and resting properly? Where do you think you're going? Where are your family members? I smile helplessly. They are in room 304. I'm going to see them now. The nurse listened. His face showed a look of disdain. The family member you mentioned is the couple from room 304. This is truly incomprehensible. Clearly, there is nothing wrong with their health anymore, yet they still refuse to be discharged, wasting medical resources for no reason. Meanwhile, those who are really seriously ill have no visitors for 3 consecutive days. I try hard to suppress my sadness. After the nurse left, I walked into room 304. As soon as I entered, Jacob was feeding Leela the cut apple pieces. Leela saw me. Her expression immediately turned to surprise. Jacob noticed Leela's change in expression. He turned to look at the door. The smile on his face instantly disappeared. You know very well that Leela is in a bad mood. That day you even deliberately provoked her, causing her to do something extreme. If something happens to Leela, you will have to take responsibility, he said angrily. I opened my mouth, but I said nothing. If he finds out that our child miscarried because of Leela, will he also think she is the murderer, Emma? I'm sorry. It's my weakness. I didn't mean to drag you and Dr. Jacob into this. Leela looked at me with tears in her eyes, just like she did 2 months ago on the rooftop. That day, the team received a notification. A young girl wanted to jump off a building. While the other team members were busy setting up the air cushion, I walked over to chat with her. I wanted to distract her. She was wearing a white dress. Standing on the rooftop, the wind blew her dress up. Her frail body looked like it could fall at any moment. She asked me, "Big sister, what do you think is the meaning of life?" While I was thinking about all the things one can do in life, I quietly moved closer to her. At the moment I touched her, I quickly pulled her into my embrace and fell to the side to prevent her from jumping off again. After saving her, she was sent for psychological counseling. The doctor in charge happens to be my husband, Jacob. In less than a week, Jacob brought her back home. When we first met, we both widened our eyes in surprise. After Jacob learned that I saved Leela, he breathed a sigh of relief. Honey, you also understand her situation. The young girl lost her parents, and she dropped out of school due to being bullied. She has nowhere to go and no money to continue her therapy, so I decided to bring her home first, to take care of her for a while. I looked directly at Jacob, but he averted his gaze, looking a bit guilty. Even I, an outsider, understand. To prevent patients from developing emotional dependence on their doctors, which affects the treatment outcome, there should be no private contact between psychologists and patients, but I still stepped aside to let Leela into the house. I'm taking a gamble. I'm betting that I've saved a kind life. I'm also betting that my partner, who has shared a bed with me for 3 years, is devoted to me. The stakes are our child. Jacob's figure leaving twice is deeply etched in my mind. It reminds me that I lost the bet, and the child is gone too. I walked to Leela's bedside. With my hand raised high, Leela closed her eyes in fear. She suddenly threw herself into Jacob's arms. Jacob immediately held Leela tight. At the same time, he used his other hand to block me. He said sternly, "What do you want to do? She's still so young." I coldly pressed down on her Roman 4 tube. Her Roman 4 bag is finished. If I don't hold the tube, the blood will flow back. Jacob glanced at the Roman 4 bag. He awkwardly let go of his hand. He stood up to call the nurse. Jacob is not here. Leela immediately stopped being afraid. Instead, she looked at me with a provocative smile. She asked the same question as she did on the rooftop. "Emma, what do you think is the meaning of life? You use the life I saved to do these things. It's really meaningless." I answered calmly. Her eyes were filled with resentment. "Who told you to meddle and save me? How could someone like you, who has always had it easy, understand how bitter our lives are? Have you really had it smooth sailing all your life?" This is the first time I've heard someone evaluate my life this way. Jacob quickly returned to the ward. He sensed the tension between us. He instinctively shielded Leela behind him. Seeing his alertness, I couldn't help but laugh. "You're so worried I might hurt her. How can you feel at ease letting me take care of her?" The nurse who just did rounds overheard us. She impatiently removed Leela's Roman 4. Healthy people still have to let sick people take care of them. Clearly, she could be discharged, yet they still pretend to administer glucose. After the nurse finished speaking, Jacob then noticed that I was wearing a hospital gown under my coat. He looked surprised. "Aren't you a firefighter? You save people at the fire scene every day. How could you still suffer from carbon monoxide poisoning?" The nurse couldn't help but laugh. "Firefighters are just ordinary people. They're not gods. Of the 3 of you, she is the most seriously injured, even the child." I gently tugged at the nurse's sleeve. She understood immediately. She stopped talking. She took off the empty bottle, muttering as she left. Jacob's expression wasn't looking good. "Regardless, you were the one who provoked Leela first. That's why she would think of ending it." Actually, what I meant by provoking was simply suggesting Leela participate in adult education exams or learn a skill, so she would have a future in society. She thought I was implying she was useless, that I wanted to drive her away. I didn't explain further, I just nodded. "Wait until the next batch of vehicles departs to extinguish the forest fire. Then I won't hinder Jacob from helping Leila anymore." Seeing me so obedient, Jacob was instead stunned. He forcefully swallowed back the words he originally wanted to refute me with. "You have been in the hospital for 3 days. How could it be this serious? I thought you had already escaped. If you had locked the door when you left, I wouldn't have been this serious." I looked at Jacob with a half smile. I wanted to see a hint of regret on his face. He just said softly, "Fortunately, it's you. If it were Leela, she probably wouldn't have been able to hold on, because Leela's health is fine." Jacob helped her with the discharge procedures to ensure she no longer has thoughts of self-harm. Although the doctor suggested I continue to stay for observation, Jacob still insisted on handling my discharge procedures. He said, "You are a firefighter. You have good physical fitness. Rest at home for 2 days, and you'll recover. Leela is quite fragile. You need to be more understanding of her. After all, you saved her. You have to take responsibility for her." Speaking of Leela, Jacob showed a gentleness I had never seen before. Even the tone of his voice when talking to me softened. We arrived at the parking lot. Jacob seemed to want to stop and say something to me. I directly opened the back door and got in. Seeing me so proactive, he still explained after getting in the car. "Leela sits in the front to avoid motion sickness. I didn't mean to take your seat." I closed my eyes to rest. I casually nodded at him. "Since Leela came into my life 2 months ago, this is just a trivial matter. I've long gotten used to it." My fingers brushed against something outside the seat cushion. I pulled it out to take a look. It was a black lace panty. In front of the mirror, Leela was looking at me with a provocative gaze, as if waiting for me to explode. I ignored her provocation. A wave of woody fragrance wafted into my nose. The blood vessels in my temples suddenly throbbed. A sharp pain tugged at my nerves. I'm allergic to woody scents. Just smelling it makes me dizzy and gives me a headache. Jacob knows this, so I never keep any air fresheners in the car. This must be Leela's doing, I frowned. I rolled down the car window. I casually threw my underwear out. Jacob quickly rolled the window back up. Speak. Leela isn't feeling well. She just got out of the hospital. It's easy to catch a chill in the wind. I struggled to hold back the saliva flooding my mouth. I fought to suppress the urge to vomit. Jacob kept blaming me. I really couldn't take it anymore. I slammed my hand against the window, urging him to stop. The car screeched to a halt. I rushed out of the car. I leaned against a tree and vomited. Jacob didn't get out of the car. He just shouted at me anxiously. Are you okay? If you're still feeling unwell, then go back to the hospital. Leela saw you vomit. She felt a bit nauseous too. We're leaving first. After saying that, they left, until I vomited yellow bile. Only then did I slowly stand up. I staggered home. As soon as I walked in the door, Leela's border collie growled softly at me. I silently took out a mask and put it on. When we just got married, I wanted to get a parrot. I repeatedly assured him that I wouldn't need his help, but Jacob still found various excuses to refuse me. However, knowing very well that I'm allergic to dog hair. To please Leela, Jacob insisted on bringing the dog home. He said, having a dog could help Leela regain her routine. It could also cultivate her sense of responsibility, providing her with a stable support in life, so she could recover her health faster. Jacob did a lot to make me accept this dog. He found many reasons. I don't know if these reasons convinced Leela, but for me, this dog has indeed caused a lot of trouble. The border collie is very smart. It knows I don't like it. It also knows I have no authority at home, so it just tries hard to oppose me. It chewed up all my shoes. It knocked over my skincare products on the vanity. It even went into my closet and pooped and peed. Every time Leela sees it bully me, she bursts out laughing. Leela laughed. Jacob laughed along. He praised the border collie as a great contributor to Leela's good mood. Seeing me silently tidying up with a stern face, Jacob always blames me for ruining the atmosphere. What's there to be angry about? If something is broken, just buy a new one. A depressed person's smile is more precious than anything. This time I came back. The border collie has chewed up my slippers again. It's holding the broken slippers. It looks like it's showing off. It tossed them in front of me. But everything that's damaged belongs to me. The money spent was mine. What I got in return isn't the happiness I wanted. I didn't think much of it. I put on shoe covers and went inside. Anyway, I'm leaving in a few days. This actually helps me adapt faster. I've only been away for 3 days. The house has completely changed. My clothes are thrown all over the sofa and floor. There are dog hairs all over them. The coffee table is piled with skincare and makeup products. Some bottles have even shattered on the floor. It was probably the dog. I walked into the bedroom. Leela's things are neatly organized. The wedding photo of Jacob and me that was hanging on the wall has been taken down. It's face down against the wall. I tried to control my emotions, but my chest was visibly rising and falling due to the suppressed emotions. Leela was curling the ends of her hair with her fingers. Leaning leisurely against the wall, she smiled gently. This was just tidied up by Jacob. He was worried since I just got discharged from the hospital. Resting in the guest room isn't good. It's not beneficial for recovery, so he helped me move to the master bedroom. She leaned close to my ear and whispered, Emma, I asked him what you would do. He said you are a firefighter, you're in good health, sleeping on the sofa is fine. He also mentioned that you were the one who saved me back then. You wouldn't mind such a small thing. Emma, you truly have a generous heart. You risked your own safety to save me and encouraged someone like me, who feels useless, to keep living. What you said that day on the rooftop was really helpful. You said that being alive means enjoying a lot of delicious food. Jacob took me around to eat all over this city, and you said I could keep a pet for company. Jacob bought me a dog so I could see different scenery. Jacob took a vacation to take me traveling. Emma, when I was at my most desperate, you said to me with pride, there are still too many things in this world that I cannot experience, not even allowing me the choice to end my life. I was really angry at you at that time, but I misunderstood you. I didn't expect you would have your husband help me regain the joy of life. I really don't want to die anymore. Thank you so much, Emma. I clenched my fists tightly. My nails dug deeply into my palms. Blood slowly seeped out. Jacob returned home with shopping bags. He saw the living room in a mess. He smiled a little awkwardly. He took something out of the bag. He handed it to me, trying to please me. You've always wanted this dress, right? Consider it a compensation for you. You've been putting up with the living room for a while, until Leela's health recovers. Let's move back to the bedroom. I'm staring at this dream dress. The exquisite craftsmanship makes my heart ache. The first time I saw it in the display window, I fell in love with it, but the price is equivalent to half a month's salary. I acted cute to get Jacob to buy it for me. He only said my job isn't suitable for wearing a dress. Buying it would be a waste. But after Layla came, the next day she wore the dress. This dress looks best on a girl her age. It turns out he wasn't unwilling to buy it. He just thought I wasn't worthy of wearing it. The dress that could have been a gift. Now it has become a compensation that hurts me. Jacob doesn't know. At the moment the dress was worn by Leela. I no longer liked it. I ignored him. I went straight into the bedroom. I opened the drawer of the nightstand and started rummaging. It doesn't matter if other things are broken. That one thing cannot be lost. But it's gone. I was sweating nervously. I stood up and saw Leela teasing the dog with something. After seeing clearly what she was holding, my expression changed. I rushed over to snatch it back. Leela lost her balance. She fell backward and landed in my pile of clothes. The dog started barking loudly at me. "What are you doing?" Jacob anxiously helped Leela up. He checked her injuries. I didn't have time to answer him. I was focused on the pocket watch I had snatched back. This is the only thing my mother left me. That year, the small restaurant downstairs exploded due to a gas leak. In a critical moment, my mother threw me out from the balcony on the second floor. I landed in a pile of flour bags in the backyard. Everything went black. What followed was a blaze of fire. When I came to my senses, all I have left is this pocket watch that I tore from my mother's neck. From that moment on, I was determined to become a firefighter when I grew up. The person I saved, even if she took my husband away, ruined my life. I can forgive all of that. But what I cannot forgive is that she actually reopened the gas valve in my house. The pocket watch has deep dog bite marks on it. The hinge is crooked. It can no longer be closed. Inside is a small photo of me and my mom. It is also cracked. Jacob saw the broken pocket watch. He fell silent immediately. He also understood how important this pocket watch is to me. The accident left me with a deep psychological shadow. Since then, I have been particularly afraid of fire. Even the fireworks and firecrackers that everyone sets off during the new year make me anxious. Until the year I turned 18, I used the money I earned from working to see a psychologist. That psychologist is Jacob. During the therapy, I developed a sense of dependence on him to avoid affecting the treatment's effectiveness. He referred me to another doctor. This made me feel abandoned once again. I waited by his car for him to finish work. When I saw him come out, I grabbed his pant leg. I begged him not to push me away. He is kind-hearted. He took me back home. In the following days, he accompanied me as I slowly overcame my trauma response. He lit the fire again and again, patiently encouraging me to extinguish the flames. "Emma, you have grown up. You have become strong. You are no longer the child you used to be. You can handle various emergencies now." It was he who took me to see the fireworks festival again and again. He kissed me when the fireworks bloomed and told me, when there are enough beautiful memories amidst the explosions, it can cover up the pain caused by the sound of explosions in the past. It was he who encouraged me to apply to be a firefighter and married me when I was 20. On the day of the wedding, I hung this pocket watch around his neck. I told him, "I've grown up. No matter what happens, don't leave me alone." "Okay." He responded to me with a kiss. That pocket watch was taken off by him at some point. The day Leela committed suicide by gas, he left twice, but he never thought of me. Fortunately, I no longer need his protection. He now has new people in need of help. I should also use the life my mother exchanged for to help those who are more deserving. I put the pocket watch in my pocket. As I passed by Leela, she once again fearfully hid in Jacob's arms. Jacob looked at me warily. He held Leela tighter. I took off my shoe covers. Turn around and leave. 3 days later, the next batch of vehicles to extinguish the forest fire is about to depart. That day happened to be my 23rd birthday. It was also Leela's 20th birthday. What a coincidence. I saved a girl who shares my birthday. She moved into my little home. She monopolized my husband. I stayed in the dormitory for 3 days. During those 3 days, Jacob didn't send me a single message. Instead, Leela sent me a lot of messages. On the night I left, they were camping on a mountaintop in the suburbs. She sent me photos. 2 people and a dog sitting by the campfire. Above them was a dazzling, starry sky. Emma, it's so beautiful to be alive. You didn't lie to me, watching the stars with the one you love. I really wish time could stop at this moment. The next night, they gathered around the heater eating crabs. On the TV was my favorite movie. In the photos, Jacob is carefully helping her crack the crab. The dog next to me is wearing my down vest. It's eagerly waiting to be fed. Brother Jacob told me you are allergic to seafood, so he hasn't touched seafood for all these years. Luckily I came, so he can taste it again. Also, the movie you recommended was really wonderful. Last night, Leela sent the last photo. The photo was taken in a jewelry store. On the counter were the 3 gold pieces Jacob prepared for me when we got married. At that time, I hadn't started working yet. The family relied solely on Jacob's income. It was a bit financially tight. To save some money, we chose the most ordinary styles for the 3 gold pieces for our wedding. He promised me, when life becomes more comfortable later, he would have these 3 gold pieces reprocessed and add some money to make me a bigger and more beautiful one. Now, my 3 gold pieces have been given to another girl as a birthday gift for her 20th. She said, "Emma, thank you for saving me. You helped me celebrate my 20th birthday smoothly. This is also the first time I've received a birthday gift made of gold." I turned off my phone, handed over to the team. On my birthday, I got on the rescue vehicle without hesitation. Jacob specifically took a day off. He brought the birthday cake that was ordered in advance. He came to pick me up from the team. In the past 2 months, every time I got angry because of Leela, I would run back to the team, waiting for him to take me home. When I arrived at the gate, the duty officer Xiao Wu saw Jacob. He looked very surprised. "Jacob, why are you only coming now? The convoy with Emma left in the morning. They should be arriving soon." "What convoy? Didn't your leaders specially approve her to go home to prepare for pregnancy? They haven't assigned her any rescue missions during this time." Jacob looked confused. He started to feel a bit uneasy. Xiao Wu said with a frown, "Emma said she had a miscarriage, applying to rejoin the team for the wildfire rescue. We need to set off today. Did she not tell you?" Jacob reached out to support the guard booth. His body was a bit unsteady. "Miscarriage." Xiao Wu looked at Leela. He shook his head helplessly. "Brother Jacob, let me be direct. Even if Miss Leela was saved by Sister Emma, you shouldn't treat her like a saint. She committed suicide by gas poisoning, causing Sister Emma's miscarriage. This shouldn't have happened." Leela's face suddenly turned pale. She gently tugged at Jacob's shirt. She said softly, "Brother Jacob, I truly didn't know Sister Emma was pregnant. I didn't mean to. Sister Emma is in good health. She is still young. She can definitely get pregnant again." Jacob listened to Leela's words. He couldn't believe it at all. He suddenly shook off Leela's hand. Leela fell heavily to the ground. She clutched her stomach and said painfully, "It hurts so much, Brother Jacob. How could you treat me like this? For the past 3 days, I had you message Emma to come back. What did you say to her?" Jacob did not help Leela up. Instead, he sternly questioned her. Jacob asked Leela a question. Leela remained silent. Instead, she turned her head away guiltily. Seeing her like this, Jacob felt something was off. He snatched Leela's phone, opened the chat history with me. He saw the messages on the phone. He could no longer control his emotions. He suddenly threw the phone to the ground. The screen shattered, and the shards cut Leela's face. "This reminds me of when I saved her. I held her as we fell from the rooftop. My face was also scratched on the rough ground. You stopped loving her a long time ago. And yet, I became pregnant with your child. Now you're pretending to be so deeply in love." Leela shouted unwillingly, "When did you get pregnant with my child?" Jacob's eyes widened in surprise. "It was that time in the car. Emma knows about it too. She already understands that you don't love her anymore. Why do you still want me to persuade her to come back?" Leela stared coldly at Jacob. Jacob suddenly remembered. That day he rolled down the car window. The black thing he casually threw out was actually Leela's underwear. He angrily grabbed Leela by the neck and questioned her. "It was you who killed my child with Emma, you murderer. Why wasn't it you who died?" Leela tightly grasped Jacob's hand, struggling to catch her breath, but she couldn't help but laugh. "I really want to die. The first time Emma stopped me, the second time you stopped me. When you were being heroes trying to save me, did you ever ask for my opinion? And now you blame me for not dying. If you had saved Emma back then, your child wouldn't have gotten into trouble. This is clearly your fault." Her face suddenly turned red. Her eyes were also bloodshot. "You two are really unbearable. I never asked you to save me. interfering in someone else's life at will, thinking you can be a savior, but then you can't take responsibility, seeing Jacob getting ready to strike. Little Wu quickly called for others to help hold Jacob back. They pinned him down to the ground. Jacob's head was forcefully pressed to the ground. He struggled to lift his head. He looked towards Leela, the girl he had patiently counseled in the office. She was being choked and coughed up blood. Yet she still looked at him with a contemptuous smile. How could he have mistaken her for 18-year-old Emma back then? And how did he inexplicably bring her home, causing her to sow discord between him and Emma, driving Emma further away from him? Leela's words made him uncomfortable inside. He indeed enjoys the feeling of being a savior and helping others. At that time, Emma was still young. Her body was so frail it seemed like it could break at any moment. She curled up in front of the car waiting for him. She clutched tightly to his pant leg, begging him not to leave. His ego was greatly satisfied. It was as if he had become a god in someone else's world. No man can resist such a feeling. Addictive. Who says men cannot create life? Emma was the second life he bestowed. He watched her slowly sprout and grow strong in his hands, until one day she no longer needed him. She had become strong enough, capable of saving others' lives, no longer the fragile little girl from the past. However, the feeling of nurturing flowers was like an addiction that was hard to quit. He thought he would never be able to experience that feeling again, until he met Leela in the counseling room. A sudden alarm for assembly rang out in the team. The two team members who were holding Jacob immediately let go. They hurriedly ran to gather together. Jacob struggled to get back on his feet. The cake he brought had been smashed to pieces during the earlier argument. If only he had sensed Emma's emotions earlier. Emma's heart. Is it also shattered like this cake, broken because of his negligence? One rescue vehicle after another sped past Jacob. Jacob watched the direction the vehicles were leaving. His heartbeat suddenly quickened. He quickly grabbed a team member who hadn't gotten in the vehicle yet and asked, "What happened? Why are so many rescue vehicles suddenly leaving?" "Typhoon is coming. The wildfire is out of control and spreading." The other person answered hurriedly, then quickly shook off his hand. Jacob was momentarily stunned. The wildfire is spreading. Emma might be in danger. He quickly snapped back to reality. He immediately got into the vehicle. He was preparing to follow the rescue team to the scene. The car hasn't started yet. Leela suddenly opened the car door and got in. She said, "To the hospital. I might have a miscarriage." She pressed her stomach tightly. Blood flowed down her leg. Seeing Jacob stand up, she thought Jacob was the same as usual. To help her fasten her seatbelt, she felt that Jacob still cared about her, so she closed her eyes. Jacob immediately opened her side of the car door. He forcefully pushed her out of the passenger seat. After quickly closing the car door, Jacob drove away. At that moment, the on-duty Xiao Zhang recognized Leela. He knew Leela was the girl I saved 2 months ago, and that Jacob had taken her home. Every time I return to the station, Leela always makes me angry. Seeing Leela sitting on the ground in pain, Xiao Zhang felt very conflicted. 10 minutes later, he still dialed 120. Leela really came at the wrong time. All the cars in the team went to fight the wildfire. The doctors all went with them. The nearest hospital. The ambulance will take 20 minutes to arrive. He has already made the best arrangements. When Leela was taken to the hospital, the fetus could no longer be saved. She was less than half a month pregnant. She had just experienced carbon monoxide poisoning a few days ago, and now she was injured again. The uterine wall is too thin. Surgery must be performed immediately. If delayed any longer, her chances of becoming pregnant in the future will become very small. She couldn't pay for the surgery. The hospital couldn't perform the surgery for her. She lost control of her emotions. Call Jacob. But she found out Jacob had blocked her. On Jacob's side, he chased after the rescue vehicle all the way. Once they entered the mountainous area, the speed gradually slowed down until the vehicle came to a complete stop by the roadside. He finally realized the car was out of gas. He abandoned the car and jogged down the mountain path. Not far along, he saw thick smoke billowing in the distance. The flames reached the sky. The smoke obscured the sky. It seems like the whole world is on fire. He sat helplessly on the ground. He mumbled softly, "Emma, my Emma, where are you?" At that time, I was surrounded by flames. The spread of the wildfire exceeded my expectations. By the time I reacted, the surrounding trees had already caught fire one after another, and I was running low on water in my car. I tried to calm myself down. Through the mask, I desperately searched for a route to escape the sea of fire. The same feeling of helplessness from the bombing incident 10 years ago returned. I tightly held onto the broken pocket watch in my hand. I tried to draw some strength from it. Emma, you have grown up now. You have become strong. You are no longer the child you used to be. You can handle all emergencies now. I silently repeated the words Jacob told me, but Mom has left. The pocket watch is broken too. Even Jacob was taken away by the girl I saved. What did I do wrong? Thinking of the child who never came into this world. Is my life going to end up like this? I have left nothing behind. Is it only pain that remains to end? I saw a burning tree falling towards me in the rearview mirror. I refused to give up. Anger instantly filled my entire body. I pressed the accelerator all the way down. The car sped forward. Burning branches on the roadside kept hitting the car. The car swayed from side to side, but I didn't let go of the accelerator. I felt like I was on fire. After breaking through the fiery forest, I saw the main group from a distance. I immediately jumped out of the car. I rolled on the ground several times. I rolled right to Chen's feet. The flames on my body were extinguished by the roll. I quickly got up. Just then, the car behind suddenly exploded. The shock from the explosion nearly knocked me off my feet. I was so scared that I tightly grabbed onto team leader Chen. I turned back to take a look. It had turned into a sea of fire behind me. If I had been a minute later, I would have been blown to bits. 2 lines of tears streamed down my face. I made it. Mom, on my 23rd birthday. The sound of the explosion made me truly grow up. Jacob heard the explosion in the distance. His body jolted suddenly. He had a strong feeling inside. Emma is over there. He couldn't think too much. He stumbled towards the direction of the explosion. A rescue vehicle was burning fiercely in the flames. The firelight stung Jacob's eyes. It can't be. It shouldn't be Emma. I taught her. She knows how to handle it. Jacob kept shaking his head, but his body moved involuntarily towards that car. Suddenly, he felt something under his feet, so he stopped in his tracks. He looked down. He discovered it was a pocket watch. Jacob stared blankly as he picked up the pocket watch. The photo inside slipped out. In the photo, little Emma was tightly hugging a woman. She was smiling sweetly. Emma. He could no longer control himself. He rushed towards the rescue vehicle that was now just a burnt shell. He couldn't accept this reality. The rose he had raised with his own hands. He taught her time and again how to overcome her fear of fire. In the end, she lost her life to the very thing she feared the most. Jacob's clothes started to catch fire. It really hurts. Emma, does it hurt for you too? He pulled with all his strength to open the car door. There was nothing in the driver's seat. Suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. I instinctively looked towards the direction of the explosion. There was no one there. After Captain Chen left, we all retreated to the back to fetch the high-pressure water gun. The water jet sprayed high into the hellish-looking woods. Thick smoke billowed. It obscured the entire sky. The fire burned for 3 days and nights. It was finally brought under control. All the team members were exhausted. Before returning to the team, we assessed the casualties from this mission. We were still searching for the bodies of the missing team members in the woods. In front of the rescue vehicle I abandoned, a charred body curled up was discovered. His appearance did not match any of the missing team members. An incredible thought suddenly crossed my mind. I pried open his tightly clenched hand. I found that his palm was already broken. A broken pocket watch fell out from inside. At that time, someone was indeed calling my name. When we returned to the team, I saw Jacob's car parked by the roadside. At that moment, we just confirmed that the unidentified corpse is Jacob. The team members started crying before I did. Captain Chen patted my shoulder with a complex expression. My mind is in chaos. I can't quite describe how I feel. Someone has been wiping my face with a tissue. That's when I realized I was crying. Am I very sad? The situation came too suddenly. I'm not ready to face his emotional changes. He brought Leela back and repeatedly challenged my limits for her. This makes me very angry. He abandoned me twice, locking me inside a house with a gas leak. I hate him. When I had a miscarriage, he still defended Leela, even trampling on my limits. My heart for him is completely dead after deciding to return to the team for rescue. During those 3 days of waiting, I received a message from Leela, but I didn't feel much inside. What emotion should I be feeling now? I'm not sure either. My heart feels empty. What does Jacob really feel for me? If she truly loves me, why did he bring Leela home when danger approached? She even considered Leela's dog, but didn't think of me. If he doesn't love me, Why did he go to the fire scene just because he saw a pocket watch and assumed I was in the car, and he risked the flames to save me? I don't understand either. Jacob is a psychologist. He might know the reason, but he won't help me analyze it anymore. I numbly returned to the team. I mechanically took the gift Jacob left for me at the gate from Xiao Zhang, who was on duty. It was a gold pocket watch. I opened the cover. Inside was a medal made from a photo of my mother and me. Next to the box was a greeting card. Jacob had written on it, "Real gold fears no fire. Congratulations to Miss Emma for regaining her new life after enduring hardships. Happy 23rd birthday." I finally realized that I was crying, but I couldn't explain who the tears were for. The team helped me organize a funeral for Jacob. I hazily returned home. I had just opened the door. Leela rushed out from the bedroom. She saw it was me. She grabbed my shoulders in disappointment and shook me repeatedly. "Where did Jacob go? He left with your car. He hasn't come back for 3 days. You tell him. It's all because of him. I lost the baby. I can never get pregnant again. It's all your fault. You wanted to save me, but you don't take responsibility for my life. Now everything is messed up because of you. You have to take responsibility for your own life." I gently pushed her hand away. I took a bank card out of my bag and handed it to her. "This card has the bonus from my participation in the rescue. The password is our birthdays. You can go now. Just consider it as me saving you without asking for your opinion back then. Now I'm compensating you. Your life or death is your own concern from now on. No one will care anymore. That's all." I walked into the room, planning to get a good night's sleep, but Leela wouldn't let me. She chased me into the bedroom and pulled me up from the bed. She asked, "Where's Jacob?" "He passed away." I broke free from her grasp and lay back down on the bed. "Don't fool me." She pulled me up again. "Even if you want me to leave, he has to tell me himself. You can't hear his voice anymore, unless you go find him. Didn't you always say you wanted to die? He's already gone ahead to wait for you." I irritably pulled the blanket over my head. Why does no one let me sleep? Jacob once told me, it's best not to sleep within 24 hours after encountering trauma. Otherwise, you might develop post-traumatic stress disorder. But I haven't really experienced any trauma. Leela suddenly started crying. She found Jacob's cremation certificate in my bag. "You shouldn't sleep for 24 hours. Otherwise, you will always remember Jacob." I deliberately sat up to remind her. After saying that, I collapsed onto the bed. I ignored any sounds from outside. When I woke up, I found that all of Leela's things were gone from the house. Even her dog was nowhere to be found. The house was completely quiet, as if she had never lived here. I asked, "What time is it now?" No one responded. That's when I remembered that Jacob had already left. I turned on my phone and found that I had actually slept for a whole day and night. The dream was empty. Not even Jacob's shadow was present. I just washed up a bit. I'm back at the team. Team Chen saw me. He looked very surprised. "What are you doing here? I gave you a month off. Didn't I? You should have been resting during this time." I shook my head and said, "I don't want to stay in the team anymore. I want to apply for retirement." Team Chen hesitated for a moment. He asked, "What are your plans for the future?" Team Chen said, "There will be a psychology lecture in the team tomorrow. A psychological counselor will come. You can go and listen. After it's over, add him on WeChat. Book a few counseling sessions. Take your time. You will get better." I said to Team Chen, "No need. Thank you. I want to study psychology not to recover from trauma, but to research trauma itself. I have faced fires multiple times and successfully extinguished the flames, so I no longer fear fire. However, trauma takes many forms. In the past, it was fire for me. Now I don't know what it has turned into. Only by understanding its true nature can I truly overcome it." I tightly held onto the pocket watch in my pocket. To raise money, I sold the house I bought when I married Jacob. Before leaving this city, I visited Jacob's grave one last time. I gently placed the pocket watch there, but out of personal sentiment, I left the small gold medal with a photo of my mom. "I'm leaving now. Thank you for helping me break free from the shadows of the past, although you've brought me new challenges. But that's just how life is. There will always be problems to solve in order to move forward. Fortunately, I now have the ability to handle it myself. Cheer for me." Having said that, I left Jacob's grave. A gentle breeze blew by. The second hand of the golden watch at the grave moved slightly. I did not turn around.